Hey, are you wondering how big your investment portfolio needs to be to boost your net worth? In this video, I'll explain you why your first 100k is the magic number. So let's dive in! Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's former business partner, once said the first 100k is but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. Find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit. The question is, why is your first $100,000 necessary? To explain why it matters, let's take a fictional person named Amy. She is 30 years old and has a 40-year investment horizon. She has a good job and wants to invest about $10,000 per year. Let's assume that she makes an average annual return of about 8%, which is the average return of the US stock market over the last 50 years. The question is, how long would it take to reach her first 100k? Well, let's do the math. As you can see, it will take her around 7 years to reach her first 100k. Now, assuming she continues investing $10,000 per year at an average 8% annual return, the question is, how long would it take her to reach her second 100k and grow her money from 100k to 200k? It will take her about 5 years. Her time improvement in reaching her second 100k compared to her first one is almost 30%. Now, if we keep going on one more time, the question is, how long would it take her to reach her third 100k, going from 200k to 300k? It will take her about 3.5 years, which is half the time she spent to get her first 100k from $0 to $100,000. If she keeps investing the same amount and still get an 8% return on her investment, at 58, it will take her 1 year to make her next 100k. If we analyze all this for a second, it tells us two things. One, the toughest and longest period to acquire our first 100k was at the start, taking 7 years. Two, after our first 100k invested, the time it takes to get an additional 100k gets shorter and shorter as she has money working for her. If we take a step back and look at those numbers as a whole, in our journey to reach her first $1 million, it will take her nearly 16 years to grow her money from $0 to $300,000. This is more time than the last $700,000, which takes an additional 12 years to grow our money from $300,000 to $1 million. You might be asking yourself, what is the driver behind this phenomenon? It's what we call compounding. Think of it like having a magic piggy bank. Every day, you put a little bit of money into it. But here's the exciting part. The piggy bank also gives you extra coins as a reward for keeping your money inside. So every day you'll get more money in the piggy bank, and the next day you'll get even more because the piggy bank will give you reward on the total amount, including the extra coins from the previous day. That's how compounding works. The longer you keep your money in the piggy bank, the more it will grow. In Amy's case, the extra money that the piggy bank gives her is the interest that she earns on her invested money by consistently making an annual 8% return. As the years go by, the interest earned on her investment will generate more interest, and this will cause her investment to grow even faster, like a snowball rolling downhill and reaching a point where we can no longer stop it. Charlie Munger believes that reaching your first 100k is the tipping point at which compounding will start working for you. There are really 3 variables that come into play with compounding. Your initial amount of money invested, the length of your runway, which is how long your money stays invested, and your rate of return. Let's quickly look at each of them. When it comes to your initial investment, the bigger the amount, the bigger the interest you make. Since interest is calculated on your total balance, a large initial amount means that you will earn more interest right from the start. If you invest $1,000 and make a 10% return, you'll earn $100 in interest. If you invest $10,000 and make a 10% return, you'll earn $1,000 in interest. If you invest $100,000 and make a 10% return, you'll earn $10,000 in interest. If you have heard in the past that money makes money and the rich get richer, that might be one of the reasons why. If you don't have a large initial amount to trigger this snowball effect quickly, your best opportunity is the length of your runway. All the three components of compounding are important, but in my opinion, the time your money stays invested is the most crucial. Compounding takes time to work, which is why it's easy to ignore. It's also not intuitive, and many people struggle to understand the math behind this concept. Let's look at two scenarios. Let's say that you were investing $10,000 a year at an average return of 8%, and you left that running for 40 years. You might think that if you doubled the amount you are investing, going from $10,000 per year to $20,000 per year, you would get the same returns if you invested for 20 years instead of 40 years, earning the same 8% return. Well, that's not the case. The $10,000 per year over 40 years at 8% turns out to be about $2.8 million. While your $20,000, which is twice the amount invested for half the time of 20 years at the same average return of 8%, only leads to a bit less than $1 million. This tells us two things. The longer you leave that money invested, the more you see the power of compounding truly at work as you allow the returns to compound more times, leading to a bigger amount. Doubling the annual investment amount, but halving the investment duration results in significantly lower returns due to fewer compounding periods. The reason most people struggle to understand this is because compounding is an exponential curve rather than a linear, steady one. Our minds are wired for linear thinking and growth, often overlooking the gradual impact of compounding because it takes time to show results. With compounding, the exponential curve usually stays flat for a certain amount of time before reaching an inflection point and exploding. The earlier you start investing, the sooner you'll reach that inflection point where your money starts exploding. In our earlier example about Amy, by starting to invest $10,000 per year at age 30 with an 8% annual return, she had to wait until age 58 to make an additional $100,000 in a year. If she had an 11% annual return, by age 50, it would take her a year to make an additional $100K. That's an 8-year difference, which is significant. A higher interest rate sustained over a long period reduces the time you have to wait to reach the inflection point and benefit from compounding. But here's the thing. Your thinking about your rate of return should not be, how can I earn the best returns? But rather, what are the best returns I can sustain for the longest period of time? To be totally honest with you, achieving an 11% annual return and beating the market which averages an 8% return is not easy. However, if you follow Warren Buffett's style of investing, which is known as value investing, it increases your chances of achieving 11% or more over a long period of time. Your best opportunity is to learn everything about this style of investing. If there is one book to start with to understand it in very simple terms, I recommend Invested by Daniel and Phil Town. When you combine the length of your runway and your rate of return, even small returns compounded for a long period of time can create outstanding results. If I had to ask you what are the odds that the average American will be twice as rich 50 years from now? It sounds impossible, right? You are probably thinking, twice as rich as they are today, doubling what they already have? This is too ambitious. The French is crazy. Now, if I ask you, what are the odds if they can achieve 1.4% average annual growth for the next 50 years? I almost feel like a pessimist. You are probably thinking 1.4% is achievable, right? Well, the reality is that those numbers are the same. If you start with $100 or any other number and make it grow by 1.4% over 50 years, you double it. As we land the plane on this video, I hope that you appreciate the power of exponential growth. Every dollar that you create through compounding is like a soldier in your financial army. At first, you might start with just a small squad, but as time passes, more soldiers are added up until your squad grows into a powerful force. The longer you allow your financial army to compound, the larger and more formidable your financial force becomes. If you have not started to build your army, my question is, what are you waiting for? This is it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to drop a like. And if you want to receive more contents like this, feel free to subscribe. Thank you all and peace out.